Hey guys, welcome back to Muslim Minds. We're going to be reacting to a video called 10 Worst Haram Things in Islam. And this is from FTD Facts. That's a non-Muslim, right?
Yeah. So we'll have to, obviously see if
Let's
he's
see.
accurate.
Does he know what he's talking about?
Even if you're not Muslim, you've probably heard the term haram. And the term haram refers to what is forbidden in the religion of Islam according to Islamic law. Here are 10 things that are considered haram in the religion of Islam. Welcome back to another episode of FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and people from all backgrounds and faiths watch our videos. But these things in this episode that I'm going to share with you, you're definitely going to want to avoid them if you want to be a really good Muslim, or if you're just curious to know what Islam views as haram. Be sure to watch from 10 all the way to number 1 so you don't miss any of these. Let's just jump right in. Starting at number 10, we have mistreating your wife. So mistreating your spouse is one of the biggest sins, and it's considered haram in Islam. Now, the Prophet Muhammad, he taught people that they need to be very friendly and kind to their wives. According to Muslim belief, Prophet Muhammad even stated that you need to try to make your spouse your best friend. In a hadith narrated by Al-Tirmidhi, it says, the Prophet said, the best of you are those who are the best to their wives, and I am the best of you to my wives. The next thing considered haram in
One thing I'd like to mention, I can already see the comments where some people are like, oh, but this Muslim in Pakistan did this on the news. Islam, like every other system, is separated from the adherents in their actions. People can make mistakes. People make mistakes in secular societies, Christian societies, Islamic societies, and there could be cultural, political, or whatever other reasons, even religious, abused religious reasons to enact those crimes. However, it doesn't change what the religion commands about such things, and according to Islam, it is forbidden to mistreat anyone, especially your family.
Yeah, especially your wife.
Yeah,
because
wife as well,
people
yeah.
might think, oh, she's my wife. They might get a superiority complex if you're a husband. But Islam literally teaches the opposite, where our prophet, the final prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is making sure to tell us not to mistreat our wives. Because even in the time in Mecca, around 1400 years ago, the men, they would mistreat their wives and they would view them as like lower. They would have full authority. But that's something that's not in Islam. Like Rahab said, you might see some people practicing that, which is obviously wrong. But you can't attribute people doing wrong things to Islam itself when the evidences are clear.
There are over 2 billion people on earth who are Muslim. 1 out of every 4 persons is a Muslim. So if you come across maybe a nation that is steeped in this kind of practice where you see a high rate of mistreating of wives, you cannot immediately pin that on the religion. You can pin it on several other factors, whether it be political or even cultural.
Islam is tattoos. Now, there's a hadith that says this: may Allah curse the women who do tattoos and those from whom tattoos are done, those who pluck their eyebrows and those who file their teeth for the purpose of beautification and alter the creation of Allah. Specifically, that's found in Al-Bukhari Al-Libas, number 5587. Charging interest is at number 8, and the term riba refers to interest, and this is something that is completely haram in Islam, largely due to the fact that it makes poor people even poorer. So like if you owe money and you're charged interest, in the end,
it's a destructive financial system that encourages debt. And
helps the richer become richer by exploiting the poor, basically.
Exactly. So, and then people get cut in endless cycles where they have to keep paying, but they can never escape it.
Poor because you end up spending more money than you actually owed. Now, in the hadith from Abdullah ibn Hamzallah, this is what is recorded that the Prophet Muhammad had said. The Prophet said, a dirham or riba, which a man receives knowingly, is worse than committing adultery 36 times. And debt payment is what kills a lot of people, because if you owe $20,000 with interest, you probably owe closer to $25,000, $30,000 in some cases. Next time I gotta pay off a car loan or something, I'm gonna tell them, listen, man, you're charging interest on that? That's haram. Adultery and fornication come in at number 7. Now, there's a passage in the Quran, Surah 17, verses 32, that says this: and do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way. So, of course, having relations outside of your marriage, as well as having intimate relations not being married, that's haram. Drinking alcohol is another big haram.
Yeah, number 7, sexual immorality. That's something, especially in the West, that's very hard to do if you're trying to be a good Muslim. Even I know Christians are not supposed to do it outside supposed to wait till marriage and stuff like that. But Islam, I guess, follows it more rigorously. But it's something that's very hard to do.
There are many practical reasons as to why it's forbidden to engage in these things before marriage. Number one, you're setting a very unrealistic expectation of what you think marriage will be. Because when you're not committed to someone, but you're in a relationship with them outside of marriage, you can sustain that relationship being in kind of like a honeymoon phase, but you don't have to have actual real commitment with one another and solve real world problems. Once you condition yourself with so many relationships where you're built on this fakeness, and then you get in a real committed relationship, you're not going to last, and the divorce rates are so high because of this, because people aren't ready for commitment anymore. They don't
Right.
really understand what it means to be in a relationship. Outside of this, you also have, kids being born without a mother or father in the scene, which can create an unstable upbringing for the child. So, and then also sexual diseases spread this way as
And
well.
also, if you have multiple relationships pre-marriage, it'll actually have a bad effect on you within your marriage because you have certain expectations and trauma. I don't know exactly. I'm sure many of you guys have heard this before. If you actually have sexual relation with someone, it actually like excretes a hormone within you. You're always going to be connected to that person in some way. So that's why Islam, its duty is to try to preserve the family. So having stuff before marriage is something that goes directly against that. So that's also another reason why it's haram.
Haram thing in Islam, and is found in the Quran, Surah 5, verses 90. There's a passage that says this: O you who have believed, indeed intoxicants, gambling, sacrifices on stone altars to other than Allah, and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid it, that you may also be successful.
This is very true. Alcohol is extremely destructive. You have many alcohol-induced cases of sexual assault, abuse, car crashes, accidents. These kind of things can be taken with the abuse of alcohol. So again, you can drink it in moderation, and nothing will happen to you. But Islam prohibits it flat out, including even drinking in a small quantity, because of its addictive nature and the havoc that it can be caused by drinking alcohol. As for idol worship, this is also something that's prohibited in Islam, obviously, because we worship only to God alone.
Yeah, and also it's haram because having alcohol, it inhibits your mind. You're not able to think correctly. You're gonna act out in bad ways. Not only does it cause death and destruction, but it causes you to act in irrational ways, and you're not gonna be able to worship God and pray, fulfill your obligations if you're intoxicated.
Now moving on to number 5, slaughtering animals the wrong way. This is also haram. So if a Muslim is slaughtering an animal without saying Allah's name, it'll be considered haram. A person should say Bismillah Allahu Akbar. Also, this is what the Quran has to say in Surah 6 verses 121. Eat not, O believers, of that meat on which Allah's name has not been pronounced at the time of slaughtering of the animal, for it is fisq, which is a sin. Most of you, even if you're not Muslim, probably knew this already. Eating pork, that is haram. Even if you use Allah's name during the slaughtering of a pig, eating pork is still going to be haram. Surah 5 verses 3 says this: Prohibited to you are dead animals, blood, the flesh of swine, and that which has been dedicated to other than Allah. And those animals killed by strangling, or by a violent blow, or by a headlong fall, or by the goring of horns, and those from which a wild animal has eaten, except what you are able to slaughter before its death, and those which are sacrificed of stone altars. And prohibited is that you seek decision through divining arrows. That is grave disobedience. This day those who believe have despaired of defeating your religion. So fear them not, but fear me, the day I have perfected for you your religion and completed my favor upon you, and have approved for you Islam as religion. But whoever is forced by severe hunger with no inclination to sin, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful.
I just want to comment on the point that he talked about in that passage from the Quran, where Allah talks about fearing Him. So in Islam, you're supposed to love, fear, and trust Allah. And the reason there's an element of fear is because it denotes respect and obedience and adherence to whatever the law is. So for example, just like you have your father or a principal or your boss, you don't fear them in an irrational way. You fear them in a way that denotes respect, and that you have to act in a certain manner in accordance with them in order to sustain a healthy relationship. God obviously deserves this in the highest degree possible, where He's your creator and He's prohibited things for you, and there's a heaven and a hell. And if you fulfill His commandments, then you will be straight and you'll be on a straight path to paradise. But if you violate his laws and you break his commandments, then there should be an element of fear, because he's the one who has control over your destiny. He's your creator. He's given you life and your family and all the things that you have. And you owe it to him not to break those commandments, because in his hands is your life.
So yeah, very long passage that included the point that eating pork is haram in Islam. In number 3, we have suicide. In the hadith, specifically Bukhari Janais 84, it says, "He who commits suicide by throttling shall keep on throttling himself in the hellfire forever. And he who commits suicide by stabbing himself shall keep on stabbing himself in the hellfire." Number 2, a very big haram thing, making statues and pictures, especially when it comes to prophets of Islam. Now, in the hadith narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar, this is what it says. Allah's messenger said, "Those who make these images will be punished on the day of resurrection, and it will be said to them, 'Make alive what you have created.'" And finally, most Muslims would agree on this.
So yeah, the reason that making images is haram, it's not just for no reason. It's because back in those days, and even now, people will venerate and idolize people. And especially, that's why Muslims don't like to draw or make anything related to the Prophet Muhammad SAW. Not because they're crazy, it's because we want to make sure they don't bring the Prophet to be idolized and venerated more than God.
People are visual.
Yeah.
So if you see a depiction of the Prophet ﷺ, people will have an emotional connection to it, and they're going to kind of transgress the boundaries set by God.
Is that shirk is the biggest haram thing in the religion of Islam. Shirk refers to associating partners with Allah, and this is the most serious thing. It's said that the Prophet Muhammad
Picture doesn't match
Yeah,
what he's
I don't know what
talking
this
about.
stock footage is.
said these words, "Shall I not tell you of the most serious of the major sins?" We said, "Of course, O Messenger of Allah." He said, "Associating anything in worship with Allah." Also, there's a verse in the Quran, Surah 4, verses 48, and this is what it has to say. "Indeed, Allah does not forgive association with him, but he forgives what is less than that for him who he wills. And he who associates others with Allah has certainly fabricated a tremendous sin."
If you really think about this point, God is your creator. And if you accept other beings as deities or gods alongside God or other than God, then what you're doing according to Islam is playing into the tricks of Satan. And this is at the kernel or the root of evil, because we believe our morality, our laws, our life, our guidance comes from God. If we forego all of that and adopt belief systems that are completely godless, then every other avenue of your life and the societal life will be open to being destroyed and polluted. So this is why such a destructive and a really decaying sin, because what it opens up for in terms of destruction is really unfathomable.
Yeah, there's the moral aspect, and it's also, if you do that, think about all the blessings of life, everything you have, it's from Allah, it's from God. And if you're associating it with another thing, you're basically being disrespectful to the one that truly gave it to you. And like Rahab said, if you attribute it to something else that's not God himself, there'll become implications and imperfections in following the other thing. So that's why shirk is such a major, the biggest haram thing in Islam.
So in the religion of Islam, only Allah can be seen or viewed or worshipped in the position of Allah. Nobody else or nothing else can be compared. And now you know 10 things that are haram in Islam if you didn't know before. Be sure to let me know your thoughts and comments down below. And also check out the videos that I did recommend to you. You'll really enjoy those ones. My social media links are below in the video description section as well, so you can follow me and shoot me a message over there. And it's always great hanging out with you guys here on FTD Facts, sharing some information with you so that not only we can learn about each other, but we can also learn about ourselves and why we believe what we believe. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.
But yeah, everything you said in the video was true. One thing I would say is, I don't know if the ranking was correct, because things like murder, lying and backbiting and being disrespectful to your parents, those are greater things than some of the things he put in this video.
This seemed more like kind of like a random list.
Seems like, I don't know, he got it from like Wikipedia or something. I don't know exactly where he got these 10 things. Because stuff like murder, backbiting, those are stuff those are some of the major haram things in Islam. But it was still a good video regardless and informational.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so if you guys like this video, please leave a like and also subscribe for more. Any other recommendations you guys want us to react to, please leave it in the comments. We would really appreciate that. And assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.